Thank you to the GitNation team and the Algorand Foundation team for making this possible. I'm the last person between you and your coffee break, so I'm going to try to make a JS Dev's Guide to Not Dismissing Blockchain as interesting as possible. I'm Brian Whippo. I lead the DevRel team at the Algorand Foundation, and you can find me on most platforms by the handle Silent Rhetoric. So, why am I talking to you about blockchain in 2025, right? Blockchain had the peak of inflated expectations, and you probably think we're down in the trough of disillusionment, but I'm here today to use my 7 minutes to convince you that actually we're climbing up the slope of enlightenment, and in some cases have reached that plateau of productivity as a technology. So I'm going to do that in 2 steps. I'm going to talk about some inspiring things that are being built with blockchain technology, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to build on blockchain with Algorand TypeScript. So I'm going to show you some code. Cool. So on background, Algorand is a high-performance layer 1 blockchain, like Ethereum, but better, quantum secure, and as of yesterday has been up with 0 downtime for 6 years. So we're very proud of that. And we've learned over those 6 years that blockchain is not a good solution for everything, but it is a good solution for a few categories of problems. One of those categories is disintermediation. This is where you're removing a middleman, removing a broker from some market and enabling people to transact directly with one another peer-to-peer. Another is data integrity. This is where you want to use a public immutable ledger to record data so that people can verify that something has actually happened. So the publicity of the blockchain is an asset. And finally, market access. So using this technology as infrastructure to tokenize assets can open up new opportunities to do things that really aren't possible or practicable with traditional infrastructure. So I want to talk about a few of the businesses that are running right now live on Algorand mainnet, because I think this stuff is pretty cool. So one, at top right, you'll see a picture of a plane. TravelX is an airline who has tokenized plane tickets so that if you can't make your flight, you can resell your plane ticket. They've created a secondary market for the plane tickets and increased their revenue by 4% in the process. Another example is Lofty. This is a startup that is tokenizing real estate, and that allows people to invest in shares of a house or a business, a commercial property, for as little as $50, and then those people can manage the property by voting on blockchain about decisions. And then finally, I'll touch on LabTrace. LabTrace is a company that has integrated blockchain into MRI machines so that researchers that are taking MRIs to image a cancer, for example, can prove that the images that they've taken of a tumor shrinking are in the right order, right? Because they've been time-stamped on a public blockchain, and they have had no opportunity to fraudulently rearrange the photos to make it look like that tumor is shrinking based on the cancer treatment they've developed. And there's many more businesses running on Algorand today. So we've really arrived at the point where the theory that you may have heard about years ago is actually live in production now. So let's talk about a little bit of code. So one of the things we've learned along the way is blockchain development is hard. We appreciate everyone in this room has a whole stack of technologies in their application. And if you want to use blockchain, then you also have to deal with a blockchain network. And within the blockchain network, there's a virtual machine, so a constrained execution environment, which can be a bit of a black box and difficult to program. Historically, you've needed to learn a special purpose language to build on blockchain, something like Solidity, maybe Rust, or some kind of like Pythonic language. So we wanted to make it more accessible for developers, and we're excited to come to JSNation to tell you about Algorand TypeScript. So this is a TypeScript framework that takes syntactically and semantically correct TypeScript and compiles it down to the bytecode that runs in the virtual machine on blockchain. So you don't have to learn another language to do this anymore. So the way that we achieve that is through a compiler called Puya. So you write real TypeScript using all the same tools in the development environment that you know and love, and it goes through a couple of syntax trees and intermediate representations and ultimately becomes the bytecode that runs on the blockchain. But you don't have to worry about the 6 bottom layers. You just have to know how to write TypeScript. So Teal is the assembly language you used to need to know to program smart contracts on Algorand. This is totally impenetrable. You're not really supposed to be able to understand this. However, with TypeScript, that same hello world looks like this. So this should be familiar to everyone in the crowd because it's real TypeScript, and you know what that does. We have a couple of other examples as well. So this is a an asset transfer. This is just paying someone in a stablecoin, for example. Or if you wanted to transfer a share of one of the houses that's tokenized through Lofty's business, you would just use a very simple method to create an asset transfer, indicate who you're sending it to, what asset you're sending, and the amount, and send it through. So again, this is really, really accessible because we've abstracted away a lot of the complexity of blockchain. And finally, this is the blockchain version of a key value store that many of you will know and use in your applications. We call them boxes, and storing a key value pair on blockchain is as simple as a couple of lines of code, like you see here. So if that felt easy to understand, and we hope that it does, scan this QR code. We have an incredible onboarding process where you can go from 0 to developing a smart contract in 5 minutes. We run workshops where our DevRel team will take you through the learning process in one sitting. And there's a ton of other resources available as well. You're welcome to pop into our Discord and say hello or follow us on X. So thank you very much, and I won't keep you from your coffee break.